Welcome to Factoring Quadratics Day 2. So today we're going to continue with what we were doing last day and even when we were factoring common factors out. Yeah, just kind of look at some ones where there is a greatest common factor today that you have to factor out before you go ahead and do the product sum, okay? All right, so we're just going to start off with analyzing the general form of the quadratics. We always have this x squared piece, right? But then we have one that's an x, and then we have a c. So to make it a quadratic, the only part that you need is the x squared, okay? You could have the b and the c missing, or just the b or just the c missing, okay? So just keep that in mind as we go through. And a here, the number in front of the x squared, we are just staying with a equals 1. Right, so if you take some courses in the future where the a is a different number, then you have a different set of rules that you have to use. So we are just sticking with simple trinomials, okay? All right, so we're going through to the first one here, x squared plus 5x. Again, I always tell you, always look for the greatest common factor, okay? That's step one of any kind of factoring that you do, just greatest common factor. Is there a number that can be divided out? Well, this number is 1. The first one is 1, and the second one is 5. So the greatest common factor there is 1. So nothing works there. What about letters? Oh, both of them do have a letter x that they can divide out. Okay, so just always take the one with the lowest exponent, so x. So I'm just going to divide here by x. So this is what we did before when we were doing common factoring. Okay, so you write the greatest common factor outside, and then take these two, divide it, that leaves an x. Take these two, divide it, that leaves a 5. Okay, so you are still in the process of factoring today. So once you get it to these two pieces here, you can't go any further. There's no x squared left, so you just stop. Okay, so we'll do the same thing on this one. Okay, so you're trying to get these all factored out as far as they can go, and then you just stop. So here we have, again, a 1 and a -7. So greatest common factor is a 1, so nothing to take out, but they both do have an x. Okay, so take the x out, write the greatest common factor out here. X squared divided by x is x. 7x divided by x is just -7. The x's will cancel out. All right, and again, the x squared's gone. We factored as far as we can. All right, so that's one type that you'll see today. So what you noticed about these ones here is that, hopefully that you noticed, was the c is missing. The one that, there's always a number out here that just has no letter on it, so that was missing, but we factored it fine, and it was good to go, okay? All right, here's the next one. If you're analyzing it, we have our A and we have our C, but the B is missing. So this is how we're going to approach these questions. So you look for a GCF. Okay, if you don't see anything, just a 1 would work. No letters will come out because 25 doesn't have a letter. So you're still just going to keep going to your product sum table. Okay, so that's where you wrote multiply and add. Okay, so think of it like the one that always added was the B here, okay? And the one that was multiplied was the C. So in this case here, hopefully you can recognize that the X term, the one in the middle, is missing, okay? So that one is 0, okay? And then here, this is your C, okay? So that's your C there. So that is your product value here. Okay, so our conditions are you have to multiply to get -25, but you have to add to make 0. Okay, so that's the condition. So let's look at, think of all the factors. So 1 and 25 will work. Okay, but again, if I add them or subtract them, I won't get 0. So the next two numbers I can think of are 5 and 5. Okay, so if I multiply, so I need a -25, right? So I can't have positive and positive. One of them has to be negative. So let's just say we'll make the first one negative. So if I add, multiply +5 and -5 together, I will get -25. Now if I add them, yes, I will get a 0. So these are the factors. So in this case here, all you have to do is write x minus 5, x plus 5, like that. Okay, all right, so yeah, so just kind of watch out and kind of look before you start just flying through it. Look for the GCF first, and then if you could factor out, great. And then here, look for the GCF, and then you're noticing, oh, the middle term, right? This middle term b is missing, so it's 0. Okay, all right, so same thing. So you're seeing x squared minus 81. The 1 in the middle is missing. So again, check your GCF first. Okay, no, just a 1 will work. No letters will come out. All right, so let's make our sum of 0, so that's the one that's missing, and multiply to negative 81. Okay, so what numbers make 81? Well, those two would work, but those would not add to 0. So let's see here, if you're going through all the factors, 81 divided by 2, nope, 81 divided by 3, that would work to make 81, but it will not add or subtract to make 0, so we'll skip that. 81 divided by 4, nope, 81 divided by 5, nope, divided by 6, 81 divided by 7, so that's what I'm doing, just going through my calculator, taking 81, dividing by 8, 81 divided by 9. Okay, here we go, 9 works. Okay, so again, if you want to use your calculator, you can do that, otherwise use the factor table, which I'll pull up here as well. Okay, so down here, so again, if you don't want to do that with your calculator where you're punching in all these numbers, go to the factors table here and find 81. It's right here, if my pen will work. And so these are all the factors, 3 and 27, 9 and 9, 1 and 81, okay? So again, our goal is to add to, or we have to multiply to negative 81, so that means one of these has to be negative, the other one's positive, okay? And when we add them, yes, we'll get a 0, okay? So we found our two factors, okay? One's a positive 9, one's a negative 9. Okay, and again, it doesn't matter if you wrote the positive first, and then the subtract one next, okay? Right, and there you go. So just watch out for those ones there where if you see, if you see the C term, the third one missing, then just factor out the greatest common factor. If you see the B, the middle one missing, so the one that would just have just an X missing, then you know it's the sum is 0. Sum has to be 0. The product, I have to add up, multiply up to 81, okay? All right, so let's try the next ones here. So we have, again, go through the steps. Find your greatest common factor first, okay? All right, so step 1, greatest common factor. So what do we have here? So you're just thinking, okay, all the numbers that you see in front of you, 4, 8, 60, all right? So you're thinking, what can I divide out of all of those? So just take the lowest number and see if it works. So 4, so can I divide 4 out of 4? Yep. 4 out of 8? Yes, 60. So if I take 60 and divide by 4, yes, that actually works as well. So we know they can all divide out of 4. Now let's look for letters. That one has x squared, that one has x, this one has nothing. So no letters can come out. So let's take out this greatest common factor of 4. All right, so 4 divided by 4 is x squared. 8 divided by 2 is 2x. 16 divided by 4 is 15. Okay, so you have the 4 now factored out. So you're thinking, okay, it must be done. Nope, you want to double check. Can you factor even more? So right here in the bracket is what you've been doing, like what you did last day. Here is another quadratic here that you could factor out. So again, you're looking at this one is your B value, I guess, and that's your C value, right? So this is the one you're thinking about with adding, and this one is the one you're thinking about multiplying up to, okay? So let's write that in a table. So we need to add to negative 2, and we need to multiply to negative 15. Okay, so you again go to your factors table, 15, there it is. Okay, 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Okay, so 1 and 15. All right, can I add or subtract those to make 2? No, that doesn't work. Okay, so you can just try that. You can calculate them out and so forth. Okay, so the other ones that would work here are 3 and 5. Okay, I can add or I can subtract those and make a 2. So I know I have the right numbers. Now I just got to figure out what sign. I have to multiply to negative 15. So if I take this one and make it negative, or the other possibility is if I make 5 negative. Okay, so from there decide, okay, well, if I add these two, I will get positive 2. Okay, so that's no, I need a negative 2. So what if I add the other two? Okay, so we have negatives coming in, battling the positives here. There's more negatives by negative 2 there. Okay, so this is the right combination here. All right, so then you go back to your question here and you go 4, still being carried along the GCF, but now you're going to write this part here as those two sets of brackets like that. So one's going to be plus 3, the other one's going to be subtract 5 like that. Okay, so always try to factor as far as you can. So it's kind of the same thing that you were doing last day, but you just want to take out the GCF, that's the extra part, and then do the the adding, multiplying table here. Okay. All right, so that's as far as you go because there's no x squareds left. You can't factor any further. Okay, so let's try the next one. So again, step 1, GCF. Okay, so step 1, GCF. Is there a number I can divide out to everybody? So what a lot of people try is the lowest number. Can I divide 2 out of everybody? Yep, 14, 36, yep, so that works. Any letters? No. Okay, so let's divide out the 2. Okay, and then write it out here, and then let's clean it up. So 2 and 2 divide out, disappear, comes 1, right? That leaves you an x squared. The next one, 14 divided by 2 is 7x. And 36 divided by 2 is 18. Okay, so there we go. We have got our part of it factored out, but now check in here, see if that can be factored further. So we have a something that needs to add up to the middle one, which is 7, and then it has to multiply to the third one here, which is negative 18. Okay, so you're going to brainstorm. Look for the multiply first. So 18, here it is. So we have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Okay, so let's start with 1 and 18. Can I add or subtract to make 7? No. Okay, let's try 2 and 9. Does that work? Yes, I could subtract these to make 7. So I know that it's got to be these numbers. Now we just got to figure out, okay, it's going to be negative 18. So one has to be negative. The other one has to be positive. Okay, and then, or this is the other possibility, okay, where the 9 is negative instead. All right, so how do we know for sure? Add them up. Which one's going to give us positive 7? Okay, yep, that first one will, so you can check the other one anyway. That's going to give you negative 7. So we need these two numbers here, okay? All right, so write them with your greatest common factor here. So you're going to go x subtract 2 and x multiplied by, or sorry, add 9, okay? And those are your correct factors. So you have to get the negative and the positive correct on the right number. You also have to write the greatest common factor because, again, if I'm marking this on your checkpoint, I will go through and mark all those like that. So 3 marks, okay? And then, up here, when you only had 2, you just get 2 marks. So make sure, write that greatest common factor in front. Make sure you keep factoring, okay? Okay, so I here, so step 1, so remember step 1 is your GCF. Step 2 here is your table, you're adding a multiplying table, okay? All right, so let's go to I here. So now we have a decimal. Like that's something we haven't seen with, like the numbers. We've just had some integers, like whole numbers, okay, with positives and negatives. So now we have a decimal here. So whenever you see one of these, I want you to just take whatever number is sitting in front of the x squared or the t squared and take that as your number value that you're going to divide out, okay? All right, also still look for the letters though. So see how it's t squared and t. They both have one t that you can divide out. All right, so let's just go through. And also I'm taking out the negative. We don't want the first one to be negative. So just take whatever's there in front of that x squared value. That's your number that you take out, okay? So we have negative 4.9t and negative 4.9t to divide out here. Okay, so we have that comes out, and then these two cancel out. That leaves me a t. That cancels out. That leaves me a 4, and the t's cancel out. So then we're there. Okay, so sometimes we will see a question like that where you have to factor out a decimal number. Okay, so if you're dealing with decimals, just take out the decimal that's in front here, positive or negative. Okay, and that's your GCF. And then any letters like that, take it out, and then look, you're already factored out. Okay. Okay, so step 1, take the GCF. So again, just look for the number that's the lowest number, 6, and just see if it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's some other number, but in this case here, if I divide 6 here, yep, it works there. Divide 6 here, yes, it works there. And any letters? No, because 96 doesn't have a letter. So go through, divide the 6 out. Okay, and then write the GCF on the outside of the bracket, and then go through and clean this all up. 6 divided by 6, so that leaves x squared. 48 divided by 6 is 8x, and then 96 divided by 16 is, or sorry, 6 is 16, okay? All right, so then you're like, must be done. I did something here. Nope. Now finish off this part. Factor the part that's in the bracket, okay? So again, that's that whole table that you have to build. You have to add to 8. You have to multiply to 16. What two numbers will work here to get that to happen, okay? So again, go to your factor table, look at 16. All right, I have 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. Okay, and again, if you want to go faster, look at those and go, okay, what would add to 8? What would add to 8? And then you're like, oh, 4 and 4. That would work as well, okay? But if you want to just kind of go through this process, okay, if I add or subtract those, does that work? No. 2 and 18. No, that won't work. But 4 and 4 will work. And if I need to multiply to 16, that works. Yep. So positive 4 plus positive 4. Yes, that would work. Okay, so now to get our final answer here, we need to break this into the two brackets, sets of brackets like that. We're using the letter x to write that first. And then in this case, 4 and 4 both work, okay? And then if you just want to make it simpler, you could stop there. I'll give you full marks. But if you wanted to, you can clean it up and just write it once with it all squared like that. Okay, all right, so that is day 2 of factoring. You just have to kind of really pay attention to the greatest common factor coming out. And when it does, you have to still keep factoring, okay? All right, so I think those ones should be okay. So some of these newer ones where there's only 2 things, just watch out for those. So again, just think greatest common factor. Is there something? Yep, okay, factor it out, and then you'll get to here. Here, greatest common factor, oh nope, there's nothing that works. So then you still have to do the product, the adding, multiplying table. So remember the middle one is missing, so make it 0, and then the product is the negative 25 or 81, and then you get to figure out what numbers work. And then, yeah, just go through that table, find the 2 numbers, and then write your factors out, okay? All right, so yeah, that's it for today. Do some of the practice questions, and then I want you to try the checkpoint.